The ladder broke at 7:43 on a Tuesday morning, and Nora Vass grabbed the gutter with both hands like her life had decided to become a metaphor. She was 12 feet off the ground, hanging from the edge of her own roof, wearing paint-stained overalls and one gardening glove because the other had fallen into the azalea bush 3 minutes ago. The gutter was making a sound that gutters are not supposed to make. Below her was a 4-foot drop onto concrete edging she'd installed herself last spring with more ambition than skill. This was not how she had imagined her Tuesday going. "Jump," said a voice from below. "I'll catch you." She looked down. Her neighbor, the one who had moved in 8 months ago, the one she'd waved at exactly 4 times and spoken to exactly once about a package delivered to the wrong address, was standing on her lawn with his arms open and his face arranged in the particular expression of a man who had already committed to this plan and was not taking questions. "You'll catch me," she repeated. "I've got you. You're like 170 pounds. 185, he said. "Jump." The gutter made its sound again and her decision got made for her. She let go. He caught her. Mostly. They both went down into the grass in a graceless heap that was nothing like the movies, and for a moment they just lay there in her front yard, breathing, staring up at a sky the color of weak coffee, her elbow in his ribs and his hand somehow still on her back. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so." She sat up. "You, probably." He sat up too, and she got her first real close look at him, the kind you only get when someone has just broken your fall with their body. He was maybe 35, with the kind of tired built into his face that doesn't come from one bad night but from a long sustained series of them. Dark circles worn like a permanent feature. Kind eyes that looked like they'd seen enough to know better than to look away. "I'm Nora," she said. "I know. I'm Cal. I know." She pulled a piece of grass from her hair. "Cal, you just caught me falling off my roof. You were hanging. There's a difference." She laughed despite herself. He smiled, and it rearranged his whole face. That was the beginning. Cal Merritt had moved to Sycamore Street the previous October with a 7-year-old named Benny and 2 carloads of boxes and the quiet, load-bearing competence of a man who had learned to need very little help from anyone. His wife, Jenna, had died 19 months earlier from an aneurysm that arrived without warning on a Wednesday afternoon while she was folding laundry. There was no preparation for it. There was no narrative logic. There was just Cal holding Benny's hand in a hospital hallway being told that the architecture of their whole life had just collapsed, and that they would have to find a way to keep standing inside it anyway. He had found a way. People always said that and meant it as comfort, but the truth was less triumphant. You didn't find a way so much as you stumbled through the wreckage until your feet learned the new terrain. He cooked dinner every night. He signed permission slips. He coached Benny's T-ball team on Saturday mornings. He did all the things Jenna had done with him and he did all the things she'd done alone and he did them because there was no other option and because Benny deserved everything he had. He had not introduced himself properly to the woman next door because he had very little left over at the end of a day for anything that wasn't Benny. Then she fell off her roof and he stopped overthinking it. Nora brought him coffee the next morning as an apology for the bruised rib, which she'd figured out from the way he held himself when he stood up. He told her she didn't need to apologize. She told him the coffee wasn't an apology, it was a thank you, and there was a difference. He repeated her own words back at her and she pointed at him and said she'd remember he was like that. They fell into a kind of friendship the way people do when geography and timing cooperate, gradually, then all at once. She met Benny, who was small and serious and obsessed with weather patterns in a way that made her love him immediately. Benny informed her within the first 4 minutes that the previous week's storm had a barometric pressure drop of 11 millibars and she told him that was fascinating and meant it, and after that he decided she was acceptable. She started leaving extra soup on Cal's porch when she cooked too much. He started checking her gutters were secured, because apparently that was a recurring issue and he'd decided to care about it. Small domestic kindnesses traded back and forth like currency in a barter economy built on the understanding that neither of them would ever make it a bigger deal than it was. But things have a way of becoming what they are regardless of the labels people avoid putting on them. The night everything shifted was a Thursday in November. Benny had a nightmare and woke up screaming and Cal was in his room in 4 seconds, but the screaming turned into crying and the crying turned into the question that no 7-year-old should have to ask and no father is ever ready to answer. Is she ever coming back, Dad? Not like heaven. Actually coming back. Cal told him the truth. He held his son and told him the truth because Jenna had always said that was the only thing worth giving people, even when it was hard. And then he sat on Benny's bedroom floor after his son finally fell back to sleep, and he did something he had not done in a very long time. He put his face in his hands. He didn't hear Nora knock. He'd left the front door unlocked after rushing in from the yard, and she'd seen the lights come on and heard the sounds through the common wall of the duplex they shared, thin walls being the great equalizer of suburban life. She appeared in the hallway with a blanket from his own couch and sat down on the floor beside him without a word. He looked up. His face was not composed. She didn't look away. "You don't have to say anything," she said. He nodded. And then, because she'd given him the room not to, he said something anyway. He told her about Jenna. Not the bullet points he gave to people at school pickups and parent meetings, but the actual Jenna, who made playlists for every mood and burned toast without exception and had a laugh that filled a room from the inside out. He talked until his voice wore down to something rough and quiet. Nora sat beside him the whole time. Not fixing, not advising, just staying, which is the hardest and most necessary thing one person can do for another. When he finally finished, she looked at him and said, "She sounds like she was extraordinary." "She was," he said. "So is Benny." "I know." He exhaled slowly. "I just need him to know it too." "He knows," Nora said. "You can tell from how sure he is about the barometric pressure." He laughed. A real one, short and startled, the kind that comes out of exhausted people as a kind of gift. He looked at her and she looked back, and the hallway was very quiet and neither of them moved away. "Why did you come over?" he asked. She thought about it honestly. "Because you caught me when I fell," she said. "I figured the least I could do was show up." He reached over and took her hand, carefully, like something he wanted to get right. Outside, Sycamore Street was dark and still. Inside, a little boy slept peacefully. And in the hallway of a house that had been holding its breath for 19 months, something very slowly began to breathe again.